So people,
we'll keep you evil-minded. Get evil, 'cause there's nothing else to do.
This is Timișoreana. Really quite decent enough beer. I mean, it doesn't pretend to be anything it's not. It's a cheap beer, but it's really good in its particular price range. It's fresh, it's easy to drink, it's slightly, ever so slightly bitter, but then again I like bitter beer. And most importantly, it's cold. It's really cold, as all beer should be. This is my trusty mini Manfrotto tripod, and this is the subject of today's video. This is the Carl Zeiss Jena Tessar 50mm f2.8, the T coating variant. Now, what you should know about this particular lens is that it came in many various revisions, let's call them, or variants. The Tessar design is a rather simple 4-element and 3-group optical construction developed by Dr. Paul Rudolph in 1902. This particular lens is the pre-war design. It's a 40.5mm filter thread, while the post-war design was a 49mm filter thread and had a bigger, fatter barrel. This lens is really tiny, weighing in at just around 170 grams. Very, very tiny, very light, very pretty, and as you will hopefully see and understand, a very capable little lens with a minimum focusing distance of just under 60 centimeters. That's roughly 2 feet for you Yankees out there. A focus throw with a generous, almost almost full turn at, I think it's around 270 degrees. A preset clickless aperture system ranging from wide open at f2.8 to close down at f16, and one of the stars of the show, if I may, is the aperture system consisting of 12 rounded aperture blades. So it's safe to say you can expect quite decent bokeh from this lens. But we'll get to that. This particular variant of mine comes in an exact amount, which is rather uncommon because most of them came in M42 mount. But it's easily enough adaptable to practically any mirrorless camera on the market with a proper adapter. The Tessar design is justifiably famous for one thing. Nicknamed Das Adlerauge by the Germans, which translates to eagle eye or hawkeye. That nickname came about due to the surprising sharpness this lens delivers, even wide open. But before going into the meat and potatoes of this video and talking about what really matters, let me take a brief moment to ask you to kindly consider supporting this channel. If you're so inclined, you can use the Buy Me a Coffee link down below and make a small donation. or rather large donation. Who am I to judge? I'll accept both. Thank you very much. However, by far the most helpful thing you can do to help me grow this channel is to smash that like button. Really obliterate it. Watch this video in its entirety, because I've yet to monetize this channel, so I need the watch hours. Share this video with your friends. Moving on. Image quality. The most important thing. Well, let me just preface all this, or rather wrap all this up in 3 layers of backing. Man, I'm a poet today. Must be this beer, which is rather good. And during this really hot summer day, coming back from work, it hits the spot. It's really wonderful. I mentioned 3 layers of packing. Yeah, let's go with that. There's 3 things I consider when I purchase lenses. First of all, is the price. I have to be able to afford a lens. A lens you cannot, well, or rather, a lens I cannot afford will do me absolutely no good. Period. It can be the best lens in the world, but if I can't afford it, I can't buy it, I can't use it, so it's useless to me. Then, of course, it's image quality. As soon as I decide a lens fits my budget, I judge the image quality. I do that by looking at reviews and looking at the reputation a lens has, and eventually, once purchased, I take it through the paces and shoot the hell out of it. Then it's construction, its ergonomics, its looks, because aspect is important to me. So these are the 3 things I'll touch upon during this video. Starting with price. I got this lens dirt cheap. It came attached to an Nexa camera. Let me just show you the camera. This is the camera this lens came attached to. It's a wonderful, wonderful Exa1, which sadly I think is not in a working condition. I'm not knowledgeable enough to fix it, and as of yet it just lies there in a sort of storage, being all forgotten and whatnot. But yeah, this is the camera it came attached to. Let me just show you. Yeah, this was it. This is quite a wonderful little package. However, I needed just the lens, but this and this was like $35, which is stupidly cheap. I mean, I've seen this lens on eBay go for as high as $300. In my opinion, that's really way too much. If you're so inclined, go ahead and spend $50 or $70 for it. It's a really, really good lens, and this particular variant is also kind of rare. The most you will be able to find are the latter black copies of the lens. Then there's the bigger, fatter barrel, the post-war design, and this is kind of like the rarest of them all. However, I think $300 is entirely too much for a Tessar. Now, Tessars are really, really abundant, and Tessars are said to be about half of all the lenses Zeiss has ever made. Now, that's entirely justifiable, seeing how the Tessar is really, really a great, if very simple, a great optical design. So that said, this lens can be had for pennies considering what it offers. Moving on to image quality, let me just have another sip. Well, now there's really many things to like about this lens. First of all, and going back to its nickname, is the sharpness. Even fully open at f2.8, this lens is really sharp if you're talking about center sharpness. Once you move away from the center and into the sides, it starts to become rather soft at f2.8. But then again, what lens isn't a little soft at wide open in the edges? Wide open, it also exhibits a fair bit of vignetting, but that on the one side can be used creatively, and on the other can easily be fixable in post. So it was worth mentioning, but it's not really, it's really far from being a deal breaker. Stopping down, f5.6 and onwards, the vignetting is gone, the lens clears up and sharpens almost edge to edge, and generally image quality improves dramatically. It's really something to see. The Tessar design is 120 years old. Colors are really pleasant. They're a bit on the softer, gentler, unsaturated side, and I personally quite enjoy that. Your mileage may vary, and I'm fully aware this is not to everybody's taste, because the colors this lens produces are not the kind that pop out of the image and practically jump at you. The tones and colors this lens produces are gentle, subdued in a way, with an elegant manner to them. They're really nice, and they do benefit from a bit of saturation in post-production. That said, they're still full and lively. At the same time, they're a bit on the warmer side of the spectrum, but that's another thing I enjoy. I like my images to have a bit of warmth to them. So this lens delivers, and delivers in spades as far as color rendition goes. Really pleasant colors with a really pre-war elegance to them. Tessars usually come at around f3.5 maximum aperture. This one, as far as Tessars go, is a bit on the faster side. However, in the grand scheme of things, it's a rather slow 50. Most 50s out there, even vintage ones, are around f1.7, f1.8, f2, and this is kind of fast compared to other Tessars, but really kind of slow compared to most other 50s. However, I think that especially due to the simple optical construction and the 12-blade aperture system, this lens can produce really pleasant depth of field blur. Even the bokeh balls are really pleasant, with somewhat of a hard, distinct edge, are at the same time soft and well behaved. It does a bit of the circular thing, producing a bit of a swirl in the right circumstances, but it's nothing like the Helios. Nor should it be, because this lens is different in many good ways. That said, shooting at f2.8 It can offer great subject separation. It can be great for portraits. It can be great for, well, not great, it can be used for close-ups. Most 50s minimum focusing distance goes down to 45 centimeters, even less. Even this one, there's a variant that goes down to 30 centimeters, but this one sadly does not. As far as imperfections go, this lens really has very little. Even wide open, there's just a bit, there's a fair bit of vignetting, but other than that, chromatic aberrations are practically non-existent, and I suspect that is due to the T coating, which brings me to the subject of the coatings. The red T on the beauty ring stands for the particular coating they used. Now, I would be lying if I said I knew any more than that about it, but what I do know from using it is the coatings are really well developed and they are actually pretty great. Chromatic aberrations are pretty much non-existent. This lens is very well behaved when hit by light directly, partly due to the coating and partly due to the very recessed front element. I'll show some close-ups of the lens, but you should be able to see the fact that the lens almost has a kind of hood to it. The front element is recessed by about 2 centimeters, so that acts like a built-in hood. These two factors combined make this lens really very resistant to wild flaring. It does, when hit by light directly, it does lose a fair bit of contrast. There's a bit of ghosting, but then again, that's pretty common. As far as geometric distortions go, this lens has just the tiniest bit of barrel distortion, but that as well is very easily fixable in post. Lovely for black and white work. This is one of my favorite lenses to take out shooting, street photography and black and white work. The way it renders monochrome tones is really nothing short of magical in a way. There's a metallic shine. The tones have a silvery, shiny quality to them. It's really, really great for black and white. It's punchy, it's contrasty. With the sharpness I keep mentioning, this lens is great for street photography. It's great for portraits. It's great for any kind of people photography, what I like to call humanist photography. All things considered, this is one of my favorite lenses, and I have lenses that are 6 times more expensive, newer, better coatings, better everything. However, the way it acts when you actually use it for what it's meant to, take photographs, it's really, really fantastic. Really great images. Having said all that, it's time to talk about build quality, about ergonomics, about how it is to actually use this lens. Firstly, on a related note, I want to mention that this lens is quite a looker. I mean, it's stunning. I know, I'm fully aware this is entirely subjective and beauty is in the eye of the beholder, all that, but I think this is really wonderful. It's a great lens to look at. It looks great on the camera. You can see the lens. It's really beautiful. As far as the way it feels and works, it has to be said, it is a 70-year-old lens. When I got it, it was in a pretty rough shape. The focusing ring was bumpy, was kind of sticky, it was imprecise, as was the aperturing. The lens was kind of dirty. There was a bit of fungus and haze on the frontal element, so I had to send it for a little CLA and a little TLC. Well, I will let you find out on your own what TLC means. I will tell you that CLA, for those of you that don't know, means cleaning, lubrication and adjustment. I have this buddy that does all my lenses that require attention. He completely changed, and luckily enough he had a spare one. He changed the front element of it, and now it's clear, it's shiny and fungus free and haze free. He cleaned the barrel, he adjusted and lubricated everything, and now, well, this is a joy to use. If Takumars are said to have buttery smooth focusing rings, I think this one has a silky smooth focusing ring. It's really hard to explain, you just have to feel it. It's really even, the turn is smooth and silky and with just enough dampening and just enough resistance in order to ensure you properly and confidently and precisely do your focusing. The single most frustrating thing about this lens is in regards to ergonomics, I can say, and specifically about this aperture ring of its. I really dislike clickless aperture rings, and with this one specifically I detest it. That's kind of harsh, but at first when I started using this lens it was really frustrating. It was frustrating enough that I thought about just scrapping the whole project and not even doing a review of it. Now, the way I carry my camera is with a shoulder strap, I guess that's what they're called, held diagonally on my body, at the back when I'm not actively using the camera. And I would often find when I would grab my camera and raise it to my eye, I guess the way this would rub against my body and my clothes, I would pretty much always find myself shooting a lens sitting at f/16. Now, if this lens had clicked stops, I'm guessing this situation would be entirely avoidable. That's just me, that's my particular use case, so take that with a grain of salt. Other than that, this lens is an absolute joy to use. And seeing how it was built in the late 50s, this being pretty much a 70-year-old lens, completely metal, or rather aluminium and glass, solid piece of engineering. There's no looseness, there's no shake, there's no give. Excellent engineering. I'm sure this lens will outlive me. It's a joy to use, probably my favorite 50. A bit on the slow side, but keep things in perspective. Tessars are really simple designs, and I don't think there's a Tessar that's faster than 2.8. That said, this has been Radu. Please consider supporting me if you find the content in this channel entertaining or valuable or enjoyable in any way. Hit the like button, share this video with your friends. This is the single most helpful thing you can do to help me grow this channel. If you're so inclined, there's a buy me a coffee link down below. Make a small donation, make a large donation, make no donation at all whatsoever. Thank you for watching. hit subscribe, hit the bell in order to be notified of any future uploads. Until next time, be well. This has been Radu. This has been the Carl Zeiss Jena Tessar 50mm f2.8, the red T coating designator variant, and this has been Timi Shorana. Cheers, be well everybody.